Hey everybody, welcome to my Suburban Oasis. My name's Soleil and I garden in a Zone 5B in mid-Michigan, and it has been a cold, damp, gray week and I kind of ran out of steam, so sorry we missed one of our other kind of normally scheduled garden videos this week, but I just didn't have it in me this week, and I'll show you a little bit about some of the things that I have been doing. I've been kind of puttering about and trying to catch up on some things because I feel like I'm way behind. But let's take a look at how the garden looks, because it still looks really quite nice for this time of year, and let's enjoy what beauty we have. So here we are near the fountain, and I like to refer to these as the fountain gardens, and I think they still look really beautiful this time of year despite things starting to brown over. We see some browning on the hydrangeas, but they still have some color, and all of the sedums throughout the garden now are taking on a much deeper tone. Those dark colors and different textures are coming out in the garden. And I'm really enjoying the color on the little hottie hydrangea here. Like I said, some of the things are browning over, but this is a really beautiful purpley pink color, isn't it? Well, we have been getting overnight temperatures in the 40s, and the celosia has seen better days. Not only is it cold, but it also has been really, really wet, so some of the celosia actually has some yellowing leaves on it. But because of the cold, one of the cool things that's happening is we're getting a little bit of tips of reddish pink new growth on this Angelina sedum. Isn't that beautiful? I just love the way that looks. And you can see the white mums in here. They're also getting tinged in a beautiful lavender purple around the edges as they age. So that's something wonderful about the mums. As they age, they actually change different colors. They can go from a light color to a dark color, or like the white ones, they can even change to a completely different color. I did come over here and plant out my heather underneath of this is a heath, right? Let me look at the tag here. Calluna vulgaris. So yes, this is double play red and white. This is a common heather, and so it has two different colors on it, and I planted this under the fountain because it's been a really hard to grow area for me, just because it's really dry directly under the fountain, but then the water splashes over just outside of that. But I did find this beautiful variegated thyme that is doing great even as it gets splashed all day. And would you look at the beautiful colors on this all the rage rose? This has just had some really late blooms, lots of buds still all over it, and we don't have a frost in the forecast just yet. Definitely some cooler temperatures for sure. Now I might start getting a few little drops on my head because I see that rain is in the forecast here, so we might have to also just take a break in the tour. Like I said, it has been a very, very wet, and you'll see all of the mulch is a very dark brown color because it's all quite moist. The buds are already starting to set on the forsythias for next year, so that's an interesting thing, always thinking about the next season or even the season after as we're gardening. But the wet has definitely been good for this rave hydrangea right here. Isn't that beautiful? I think if it was warmer, we definitely would have gotten some gorgeous new flowers on that. And that will probably be much more of a pink color tone as that grows on in my garden, because we don't have really very acid soil here. You can see the beautiful colors. Oh, do you hear the rain? I think I'm going to get a little bit wet while being out here giving this tour, but that's okay. The Verbena bonariensis is still looking very beautiful, dancing up over all of these other different shrubs and flowers along with the mums. And this holly is going to provide some much needed greenery in this section of the garden as things begin to die back. All right, I'm going to take a real quick break and we'll come back to this as the rain dies down. Okay, well, I have snagged a handy dandy umbrella which will take us through the rest of the garden tour as it sprinkles on us. But I think this is a really gorgeous view to the back here. And we are getting more blooms on this red rose. They're starting to go over a little bit, but haven't they been beautiful? this last couple of weeks. Very stunning with the 9-bark and the strawberry Sunday hydrangea. All sorts of contrast and color going on in this combination area. I never really did get a rebound from the Rudbeckia that I planted in this area, which is too bad. It got powdery mildew after I planted it this year really quickly and died. And that's just been kind of a troublesome thing for me this year, is the powdery mildew. Each year is always different in what the challenges are. Now, I don't know if you can tell, but this Viburnum is starting to change colors, and it's almost turning a deep purple. It's so pretty. I love this one, and next year I'm going to continue to limb that one up a little bit further, just to continue to allow some more light in underneath of it and the surrounding shrubs to have the space that they need. The orange mums are still everywhere and just filling up the garden with bright and cheery color. And as you look back, you can see just how colorful the garden is this time of year. And the sedum are actually starting to match some of the deep colors of the hydrangeas, which provides a really nice sense of continuity of color this time of year. And the heucheras are so purple over here. Some of them are the wild berry and, I can't remember all of the different names of them. Georgia peach. But they sure are gorgeous. I have lots of new growth on this rose back here. You can see these stems. I'm trying to think about what am I going to do about this climbing rose, because it is kind of tied into some wires that are run along the fence here. So as I replace the fence, I'm wondering what am I going to do with that during the time. Do I cut it all the way back? I'm interested to hear if any of you have gone through a similar situation and what you did and how it worked for you. Now the buddleia is just about done flowering here. This was the Pugster blue one. But the foliage is still a beautiful silvery color with all of the sedum and the hydrangeas back behind it. I haven't gotten my cannas out yet. That's still on my to-do list. But I don't need to overwinter all of them, just enough to get me some to start again in spring. They do spread quite rapidly. And the hostas over here, I am actually now looking forward to getting a frost for the hostas' sake, because they do look very bedraggled. I mean, last week they looked a little bit sad, but this week they really do look like they need to die back all of the way. And I'm actually kind of looking forward to that, because it'll look a little cleaner and I can take those out, and then I can start using some of the fallen leaves throughout the garden beds as mulch. And I just love to do that every year. It really does help to improve the soil. We're starting to get just some very small tinges of color on the Fothergilla over here. The rain's starting to come down a little bit harder now. And this bilberry hosta has been magnificent, just fantastic, along with the black onyx, or the black pearl, that's what it's called. It has not missed a beat this entire season. Now next year I'm expecting to see quite a bit of new growth on this weeping spruce, and I staked it up this year and got it probably about 2 feet taller, and so next year I'm looking forward to seeing kind of some of that weeping foliage off of the top of it begin to fill in and provide more presence within the garden. Now I am planning to plant out this Brunnera. This is a Queen of Hearts, similar to the one that is just over here on our left. And I haven't decided if I'm going to replace the chive that's right here or if I'm going to take this Queen of Hearts all the way to the way back garden and plant it back there. The nice thing is once you have Brunnera, you can also always divide it. So no matter where I plant it, eventually I'll have more of it. I did come through and plant out one of my Kaya geraniums down here, and I think it has that beautiful color now. This was in one of the planters at the end of the pool, and it definitely has picked up some gorgeous red tones with the change over to fall temperatures. And this part of the garden is looking pretty still. It's quite protected underneath some of the trees back in this area. So all of the ferns and the hydrangeas are still looking really happy, and the hydrangeas have really enjoyed having the extra moisture these last couple of weeks. We definitely have had some powdery mildew issues on this Brunnera as well. Like I said, it has kind of taken its toll throughout the year on different parts of the garden. This rose is Grandma's Blessings rose, and I think it looks really gorgeous with the cold damage around the edges of the flowers. Isn't that pretty? It just kind of looks like an antique rose. All of the heucheras over here have filled out really, really well, and so next year I think that's going to provide just a really nice dense mound along the front edge of this border. I might even continue to carry it further and kind of move some of the ajuga that's in here around, but we'll see. The phlox that we planted up here in the planter is looking healthy and happy. And this is hardy down to zone 3, so we're trying to just overwinter that in here. I don't know if the rhubarb will come back next year or not, and if it doesn't, I'm hoping the phlox will help to take over in that pot and provide some flowers, along with whatever other annuals or things that I decide to plant in it next year. Now, this oak leaf hydrangea hasn't put on much fall color because it's in the shade, and as we go throughout the garden, you'll see the one that's in the front yard has so much more color on it than these that are in the backyard that are more protected and don't get as much sunshine and don't get quite as much in terms of the cold temperatures. Would you look at this? We like to throw our apples over the fence for the deer when they kind of go bad if we don't get to them soon enough, and this one's stuck right in the fence. So funny to come back and get that out. This Pinky Winky hydrangea is a standout right now in the garden still, and until it goes brown it will continue to be. And it's just offset by these gorgeous Hakonakloa all gold grasses. Look at the seed heads on them now. Aren't they fabulous? It adds a whole nother color to this, and these will kind of turn a tannish color as they age out and die back for the winter, but they will hold some structure and interest throughout the winter garden. Look at the beautiful color on this right here. This is a Pieris, and this is one of the ones that holds its buds all throughout the fall and winter, and then begins to open in the late winter to early spring into beautiful little flowers. And behind it is our Gelena witch hazel, which should also take on some beautiful fall colors soon. I'm actually quite surprised at how slowly some of the things in the garden are changing over to fall colors, because many of the trees are starting to turn, as you can see while we look around. typically mid-October we get our first frost, but it looks like it's going to be a little bit delayed. Like we're having really cool and wet temperatures, but not actually getting down into the frost temperatures. But that's okay. We'll just continue to enjoy some of the beautiful garden views. I do love right now to come along and walk around the garden and just kind of gaze at it, if you will, and just look at what things are doing well and what's not, and kind of daydream about what's to come next year. And, you know, because I'm almost done with all of the changes I wanted to make this fall, starting to think about, you know, what do I want to do next year before all of the above ground foliage or the herbaceous perennials start to die back to the ground, and still seeing how it looks right now. Are there other things that I still want to change moving into the spring? And this garden bed looks nice and kind of tidy, actually. I did come in and remove those daylilies, so I think that looks kind of cleaned up. It's definitely looking a little bit empty to me, but I want to put some daffodils in this garden bed. We had some this last year. I'm not sure if I marked them very well, but I've got my bulb order in, and some of them are starting to arrive. So that will definitely be one of the areas in which I ensure we have lots of daffodil coverage. And how about this for a beautiful view? I mean, we have the blooms still on this bloom chocolate geranium. And the color, it's just magnificent. I love that. I don't think it's big enough still yet to divide. I'm thinking next spring. So that's one of my to-dos for next spring. And because that one looked beautiful, I thought, well, I'm not sure where to put all my Kaya geraniums that were in the end planters. So I put one right here, and you can see the color on that foliage as well is absolutely beautiful for fall. So keeping in symmetry with that, I did plant one as well down here. It's a little bit smaller and kind of hidden by the draping branches of the coralberry, but it is tucked under there with some beautiful color. And next year they should get bigger, and we'll see how they do there. I am not sure. Next year I think the coralberry will be its third full year, so it should take on its really densest and fullest amount of growth, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they do there. I wonder what their full height will be, because I think they're going to get bigger than they actually said that they will. Now over here, I think in the rain, I mean this light right now with the darkness and kind of the gray, everything is kind of glowing and bright, and the pinks on these mums are gorgeous. But every week I feel like even more and more pink and red tones come out in this rainbow sensation weigela. And I just think that is so beautiful, so pretty. We're starting to see some changeover on this weigela as well. It's turning from being quite so dark. This is the dark horse weigela, and it's kind of losing some of its pigmentation and becoming brighter. Now you'll see I have my serviceberries are sitting right here. These are the ones that have been kind of eaten by animals over time, and they were over in this garden bed, and I managed to dig them out and just made a small change over here that I think you guys will appreciate. So I took the Stonehenge yews and I have placed them in the spots where those were planted. And these have a really nice, I'm going to come around and show you a glance at kind of where they are overall in the structure of this garden bed. But they have a really nice deep green foliage, and these get 6 to 8 feet tall, so they should come up to the bottom of the window up here, and they get about 1 to 2 feet wide. So should stay really nice and narrow, but should provide that really nice structure that evergreen does, and also stay small enough that they will not take over this garden bed. And I think they'll contrast really nicely with some of the other things in here and provide that evergreen interest that's needed in this garden bed, because really the only other thing in this garden bed that is evergreen is the Virginia, and it's absolutely beautiful and provides a lot of winter interest, but I always love adding more. It just makes me happy. So I'll show you my couple of little baby figs here. There's my baby fig. This is a Violet de Bordeaux fig, and it is hardy to zone 5. A lot of people have asked me about it whenever I show it. There's my other little teeny tiny baby fig. And last year it died all the way back down to the ground. So we'll see if it still continues to do that this year, or if it maintains any of its woody structure at all. If not, I simply wait until I see new growth in the spring, and then I cut back all of the dead sticks and let it grow on. So next year will be really interesting to see how that grows. Our firelight tidbit that is right down over in this corner is also doing well and starting to put on a little bit of color on its foliage. It's kind of hard to see in that cage that I have that's protecting it. All right, let's check out the front garden. So this garden bed is really starting to turn to fall, and the hostas are turning yellow, and we have some beautiful color actually back on this black lace elderberry. Let's see if I can get close. I haven't had this kind of color on it before, and it doesn't get a lot of sun, so I'm wondering if the rest of the leaves are going to turn that color this year, or if it just takes a few years for them to really establish themselves and get that color going. But again, it just doesn't get very much sun, so I really didn't expect it to change color this year, because I didn't see it do it last year either. This garden bed is just kind of hanging in there and looking pretty good for what it is. And I am really excited about the potential for this garden bed next year and what it will look like as the plants begin to take more of a center stage, and the hose reel and some of the utility type things in here, like the air conditioner, kind of begin to fade into the background. I have a variegated sage that I planted. This is a perennial. It does like to have really good drainage, so it should come back next year, and that will be wonderful. Now, I do need to protect this rosemary. It's starting to get quite cool. This does well down to about 0 degrees, but we can get down to like a -15, sometimes even a -20 here. So I will try to protect this in the hopes that I can get it through another winter. It's really hardy, only down to a zone 7. So I have protected it with my pop-up tomato accelerator covers, and sometimes I put 2 of them over it, but that really did a great job of helping it to sustain through last winter, and it came back really well. So we'll try it again and see if we can get it through another winter. I'm wondering if we're going to see any berries on this hypericum or not. Sometimes they put berries out and sometimes they don't, but I'm not seeing any yet. This is a St. John's wort, and it's called Sunny Boulevard. We're getting some really good color on this viburnum, and this is the same as the other larger one that I have in the back garden, but this one is turning more of a dusky red at this point, which is beautiful. But different conditions of growing definitely produce different colors of foliage, even on the same type of plant. Even this barberry has now, with the cool weather, taken on a really deep tone, which was almost all green last week. You can see the Virginia starting to take on some beautiful color on its shiny leaves. And we're even starting to get some color in our small maple tree over here. Let me see if we can get a better look at that. But before we do, we'll take a look at how our fothergilla is doing in its new spot. And I think it's looking great, and indeed putting on even more red color on its foliage. Gorgeous. So not quite the bright red that I was hoping on this maple tree, but certainly starting to put on some color after last night. Just overnight, really, it started to change. And last year we didn't get much color on it at all, but I think this is beautiful. And I really like the shape of the leaves. I did come through and tie up the junipers. Thanks for everyone's encouragement on trying that out. From far away you can't even hardly tell, but when you start to get close up in there, you can see that I used a stretchy tie to keep the branches together. And it definitely makes for a nicer, cleaner view when I'm looking out from our indoor windows to check out and see what's going on in the garden. I really enjoyed having this garden bed here this year, and I'm looking forward to doing more with it next year. I'm probably not going to plant any annuals or any herbaceous perennials in it this fall. I'm still just continuing to wait for the soil to loosen up a little bit more under the mulch, but the shrubs and kind of tree type plants are just fine to put in this time of year. Well, this is probably one of the other top areas of color that we continue to have in our garden. And I think it's fantastic. Just looking at all the little colors nestled in together. This hydrangea snug amongst the mums, and the beautiful contrast of that variegated boxwood just hits you. I love it. I'm so happy with the way that this looks right now. It's come a long ways over the last couple of years, I think, in terms of the design and starting to fill out into, what I was hoping it would. You always hope that the kind of vision that you have in your mind is what ends up happening. And sometimes it's better and sometimes it's not. But look at the color now on this oak leaf hydrangea. We're starting to get some pops of red in here. And I think it's only going to continue to get better with more time and the cool temperatures. Just beautiful. And I love seeing all of the ferns that are doing so well under the canopy of this. I planted some Japanese ferns under here a couple years ago, and they were very small, and now they're actually starting to have a presence. But they don't show very well during the summer because they don't get enough moisture. And so right now seems to be their happy point. The black scallop ajuga in this garden bed is doing really well at helping to provide a ground cover. And this is going to be really fun to watch next spring to see if we get a more prominent display of the flowers from it. Because this year it was a bit minimal. The flowers on the black scallop ajuga are not super bright, so you have to have them really en masse to be able to get a strong presence. And now you can see that the sedums are darker and deeper than the hydrangeas in this garden bed as they begin to age. And these I will leave up throughout the winter. They have a really nice strong form. They look like they're going to be able to dry very upright and sturdy, so we'll leave those in place. Well, this long border over here also continues to be a study in color with the mums. These are starting to go over though. They have definitely seen their best days so far. We have a couple of berries on the blue muffin viburnum that are blue, not a whole lot. I don't actually have different kinds of viburnum that are supposed to be able to combine to make the berries, so I'm always surprised every year when we actually get some, because somehow nature is making it happen. I don't know what bees or butterflies or birds are bringing in the pollen from another viburnum to make those berries, but they are, and it's pretty cool. We are now starting to get a little bit of bloom on this mum at the base of the black lace elderberry, a very deep dark color. But I think this garden bed is looking really pretty right now. Still has a lot to show. And even when the flowers go over on these gaura, the beauty of the stems and the coloration on them from top to bottom between the pinks and reds and greens is just stunning. The crab apples darkening up even further and ripening, getting ready for all the wildlife to come eat them. And I love the contrast of this 9-bark with the mums. There's something about that deep color and then the bright pop of the chartreuse of the mums. And in this garden bed, I actually planted a lighter color mum last year. And I think that's really pretty too, mixed in. Now, I also planted out our grasses. If you recall, I got a couple of grasses, and I'm blanking on their names right now, but they are like a bluish grass. They're kind of hard to see without something behind them. But I planted them in this garden bed. They're supposed to spread to about 30 inches and get about 30 inches tall. So they should provide a really nice backdrop there and hopefully fill in that area. I'm hoping they don't take over. I'm hoping they are a good clump. The thing I struggle with the most with them is getting weeds in between the grass, like maybe a grass that kind of is a runner type grass and then having it, I don't know, just kind of wind its way throughout, and it doesn't look very good. So hopefully I'll do better with these and I will enjoy them more. But I like the pop of blue gray that they kind of bring to this garden bed right now. And let's see if we can get a little bit better look at them from the other direction, because to me that foliage aligns really well with the buddleia that we planted also, just helping to bring in a little bit different texture and color into this garden bed. And I think that's going to be really nice. What do you think? Let's give you a little bit of a look at this garden bed from the back side. So this is my neighbor's view. And this spirea is done blooming, but we should get a little bit of fall color on that as well soon. And of course they get to enjoy the full side of the blue of this juniper, which is gorgeous. And then we have these nice rose hips on the Oscar Peterson rose. Lots to enjoy from every direction. And you can see our boxwoods are looking great. Definitely feel like the little lime hydrangea that we planted over here is going to thrive in this spot so much more than it did this year on my deck in a container. It was just running out of room for its roots. Here we have some really nice fall color as well on this azalea. Kind of a rusty brown color. And we're just starting to see a little bit of a change in color on this burning bush. Well, that concludes our journey through the garden today. I hope you enjoyed some of the sights and the sounds of the drizzle of the rain as we kind of sauntered through the garden together and took a look at the colors and what I'm working on. Well, thanks again so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this video and are enjoying your autumn garden and are enjoying some cooler temperatures if you've been waiting for them. Or if you're like me, maybe you're enjoying some fires indoors these days. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.